I've been a pool maintenance technician for Clearwater Pool Services for 8 years, and what happened at the Riverside Country Club on June 14, 2022, still makes me check over my shoulder every time I'm working alone. I thought I'd seen everything in this business: equipment failures, chemical accidents, even the occasional medical emergency. But what I witnessed that day changed everything I thought I knew about the people who use these facilities. It was a Tuesday morning, around 10:30 a.m., when I arrived at Riverside Country Club in my 2018 Ford Transit van. The club had called about their main pool's filtration system acting up, and as their regular maintenance contractor, I knew the facility well. The morning fog was just starting to lift, and the pool area was mostly empty except for a few early swimmers finishing their laps. I started my routine inspection, checking the chemical levels and examining the filter housing. That's when I first noticed him, a man in his late 40s, average height, wearing dark swim trunks and a white polo shirt. He was sitting in one of the lounge chairs near the far end of the pool, not swimming, just watching. He had a towel draped over his lap and a small gym bag beside his chair. At first, I didn't think much of it. Plenty of club members come to relax by the pool, read a book, or just enjoy the atmosphere. But as I worked on the filtration system, I began to notice his behavior was unusual. He wasn't reading, wasn't on his phone, wasn't talking to anyone. His eyes were constantly moving, tracking every person who entered or left the pool area. The club's pool complex is designed with multiple areas: the main swimming pool, a smaller therapy pool, and a children's splash area. Each section has its own changing rooms and shower facilities. What made me uncomfortable was how this man seemed to have positioned himself to have a clear view of all three areas, especially the pathways between the changing rooms and the pools. Around 11:15 a.m., the lunch crowd started arriving. The club caters to a mix of families, retirees, and business professionals who use the facilities during extended lunch breaks. I watched as more people entered the pool area, and I noticed the man's behavior becoming more focused. He would shift slightly in his chair to maintain his view as people moved around the deck. I was troubleshooting a clogged intake valve when I overheard Sarah Collins, one of the club's pool attendants, talking to her supervisor near the equipment shed. She was expressing concern about the same man I'd been observing. "He's been here since we opened at 9 a.m., Sarah said, keeping her voice low. "He's not swimming, he's not using any of the facilities, and he's making some of the female members uncomfortable. Mrs. Henderson asked me if we could do something about it." Her supervisor, Dave Martinez, glanced over at the man and frowned. "Is he a member? Have you seen his access card?" "That's just it," Sarah replied. "I haven't seen him scan in, but he must be a member to get past the front desk, right? I mean, security would have caught him otherwise." I continued working on the filter system, but I found myself increasingly distracted by the situation. The man had been there for over 2 hours now, and his behavior was becoming more obvious. He would lean forward slightly whenever someone walked by, particularly women in swimwear. When families with children arrived, he would adjust his position to maintain his view of the children's area. Around 12:30 p.m., I decided to take a break and grab lunch from my van. As I walked past the man's chair, I got a better look at him. He was clean-shaven, wearing expensive-looking sunglasses, and had a small notebook partially hidden under his towel. What really bothered me was that he wasn't wet, not his hair, not his clothes, nothing. He'd been sitting by a pool for over 3 hours and hadn't gotten in the water once. When I returned from lunch, the situation had escalated. The man was still in his chair, but now there was a young woman, maybe in her early 20s, swimming laps in the main pool. She was wearing a standard one-piece swimsuit and seemed focused on her workout. But the man's attention was completely fixated on her. He had shifted his chair slightly to get a better angle, and I could see him making notes in his small notebook. That's when I noticed something that made my blood run cold. The man had what appeared to be a small camera or phone partially concealed in his gym bag. The bag was positioned on his chair in such a way that the device could record the pool area while appearing to be just casual belongings. I knew I had to act. I walked over to the club's main office and found Dave Martinez reviewing maintenance schedules. "Dave, I need to talk to you about the man by the pool. I think there's a serious problem." Dave looked up from his paperwork. "The guy in the lounge chair? Sarah mentioned him earlier. What's going on?" "He's been recording people," I said, keeping my voice low. "I'm pretty sure he has a camera in his gym bag, and he's been taking notes about the swimmers. This isn't just someone enjoying the pool, this is targeted surveillance." Dave's expression immediately turned serious. "You're sure about this?" "I've been watching him for over 3 hours. He hasn't been in the water once, he's positioned himself to see all the pool areas, and he's been documenting people's activities. This isn't normal behavior." Dave nodded grimly. "I'll call security immediately. Can you stay nearby in case we need a witness statement?" I agreed and returned to the pool area, continuing my maintenance work while keeping an eye on the situation. About 10 minutes later, I saw 2 security guards approaching the man's chair. They were both wearing the club's standard security uniforms, dark blue polo shirts and khaki pants. The lead security guard, a tall man with graying hair, approached the chair calmly. "Excuse me, sir. I'm Tom Wilson from Club Security. We need to verify your membership status and discuss some concerns that have been raised." The man looked up, and for the first time, I saw his face clearly. He appeared nervous, his eyes darting between the security guards and the pool area. "Is there a problem, officer? I'm just enjoying the facilities. We'll need to see your membership card and ID," Wilson replied professionally. "And we'll need to inspect your belongings." That's when everything went wrong. The man suddenly stood up, grabbing his gym bag and towel. "I don't have to show you anything," he said, his voice rising. "I'm a paying member of this club." "Sir, if you're a member, then showing your card won't be a problem," Wilson responded, but the man was already moving toward the exit. I watched as the man hurried toward the pool area exit, but Wilson and his partner followed closely. They caught up with him near the main entrance, where a heated discussion ensued. From my position by the filter equipment, I could see the man becoming increasingly agitated. The situation resolved quickly once the front desk staff got involved. It turned out the man was not a member of the club. He had somehow bypassed the front desk security by following closely behind a group of legitimate members during a busy morning arrival period. The cameras in his gym bag contained hours of footage from the pool area, focusing primarily on women and children. The police were called, and the man was arrested on charges of criminal trespass and unlawful surveillance. During the investigation, officers discovered that this wasn't his first offense. He had been banned from 2 other private clubs in the area for similar behavior. What disturbed me most was learning that he had been planning this. In his notebook, officers found detailed schedules noting when families with children typically used the pool, when the women's water aerobics classes met, and when the pool area was least supervised by staff. He had been studying the facility's patterns and security procedures. The club immediately implemented new security measures, including mandatory ID checks for all pool area access and additional surveillance cameras with blind spot coverage. They also began requiring all maintenance contractors like myself to report suspicious behavior immediately. Sarah Collins later told me that several female members had complained about feeling uncomfortable but hadn't spoken up because they weren't sure if they were overreacting. The incident highlighted how important it is to trust your instincts when something doesn't feel right. The man eventually pled guilty to multiple charges and was sentenced to 6 months in jail plus 3 years of probation. He was also required to register as a sex offender and was banned from all private recreation facilities in the county. What keeps me awake at night is thinking about how long this had been going on before we caught him. How many other facilities had he targeted? How many people had been recorded without their knowledge? The police investigation revealed that his phone contained videos from at least 4 other locations, including a public swimming pool and a YMCA. I've learned to pay closer attention to people's behavior when I'm working at pool facilities. Most people are there to swim, relax, or socialize. When someone's behavior doesn't match the environment, it's usually worth investigating. The combination of being in a semi-private space where people are vulnerable, combined with the predatory behavior we witnessed, created a perfect storm for exploitation. The incident also made me realize how many blind spots exist in these facilities, even with security measures in place. It's a sobering reminder that we all need to be vigilant about protecting each other, especially in spaces where people should feel safe and comfortable. Have you ever noticed someone at a pool or gym whose behavior made you uncomfortable? What did you do about it? I'd love to hear your experiences in the comments. Sometimes trusting our instincts is the first line of defense against people who prey on others' sense of security. I'm Marcus Thompson, lead pool maintenance supervisor for AquaClear Services, and what I discovered during a routine cleaning at Westfield Community Pool on July 3, 2022, connected to something far more sinister than I could have imagined. It was a Monday morning around 6 a.m. when I arrived at the Westfield facility in my 2019 Chevrolet Silverado. The community pool had been closed for the holiday weekend, and we were doing our standard post-holiday deep cleaning before reopening. The pool serves a suburban neighborhood families, kids swim lessons, senior water aerobics. Nothing unusual ever happened there. I started my routine with the skimmer baskets and main drains. That's when I found the first note. It was sealed in a waterproof plastic bag, weighted down with small rocks, sitting at the bottom of the deep end. The bag was clear, about the size of a sandwich bag, and inside was a folded piece of paper with writing on it. I fished it out with my telescoping pole, dried off the outside of the bag, and opened it. The note was written in neat block letters. Jenny Walker, 142 Maple Street, Tuesday, swim lessons 10 a.m. red Honda Civic. My first thought was that someone had dropped personal information by accident. But something about the clinical way it was written bothered me. This wasn't a reminder note someone had written for themselves, this was surveillance information. I continued cleaning, but 20 minutes later, I found another bag. This one was near the shallow end, tucked under the pool steps. The note inside read, Maria Gonzalez, 89, Oak Lane, Wednesday mornings alone, drives silver Toyota Camry, lives with elderly mother. The hair on my neck stood up. This wasn't random information. Someone was documenting the pool users' personal details, their schedules, and their living situations. I immediately called my supervisor, Daniel Rodriguez. Dan, I need you to get down here right away. I'm finding notes at the bottom of the pool with personal information about our members. This looks like stalking. Dan arrived within 15 minutes, and we systematically searched the entire pool. By the time we finished, we had found 7 waterproof bags, each containing detailed information about different pool users. The notes included names, addresses, vehicle descriptions, daily routines, and disturbing personal observations. One note about a teenage girl contained her school schedule and the notation, usually alone after practice. Another described a single mother's work schedule and noted that she leaves children with babysitter Thursdays. We called the police immediately. Detective Sarah Martinez arrived with 2 officers and began collecting the evidence. She took photos of each note and the locations where we found them before sealing everything in evidence bags. Mr. Thompson, how long has the pool been closed? Martinez asked. Since Friday evening. We close at 6 p.m. on Fridays and don't reopen until Tuesday morning after holiday weekends. So someone had access to this pool between Friday evening and this morning, she said, making notes. Who has keys to the facility? I provided the list, myself, 2 other maintenance staff, the pool manager, and the facility director. We also discussed the fence height, security cameras, and whether someone could have climbed over. Detective Martinez studied the notes carefully. These aren't random observations. Someone has been watching these people for weeks, maybe months. The level of detail suggests systematic surveillance. What made it worse was the realization that the notes were dated. The earliest was from 3 weeks ago, the most recent from the previous Friday. Someone had been regularly placing these notes in the pool, using it as a hiding place for their surveillance records. Why the pool? I asked Martinez. Water destroys most evidence, she explained. If these bags had leaked or been damaged, the notes would be illegible. But waterproof containers at the bottom of a pool, That's actually a clever hiding spot. Regular pool maintenance might miss them if they're placed strategically. The investigation revealed that the facility's security cameras had been systematically disabled. Someone had been cutting specific wires in the camera housing boxes, making it look like normal equipment failure. The maintenance requests for camera repairs had been submitted and approved, but the work hadn't been completed yet. Martinez interviewed the pool manager, Linda Chin, who confirmed that several members had mentioned feeling like they were being watched. "We thought it was just normal community gossip," Chin said. "Small neighborhoods, people notice each other. But now..." The detective also discovered that the pool's electronic access system had been compromised. Someone had cloned keycards to gain after-hours access. The system logs showed entries at times when no staff should have been present, but the entries were coded to legitimate staff cards. 2 days later, Martinez called me with an update. "We've identified our suspect. It's Robert Hayes, a 34-year-old unemployed man who lives about 6 blocks from the pool. He's been arrested twice before for stalking, but the charges were dropped due to insufficient evidence." Hayes had been conducting surveillance on pool users for over 2 months. His apartment contained detailed files on 37 different people, including photographs taken with telephoto lenses, work schedules, family information, and daily routine patterns. The most disturbing discovery was that Hayes had been using the pool notes as a communication method. He wasn't just hiding his surveillance records, he was leaving information for someone else. The police found evidence of a second person involved in the operation. "We believe Hayes was gathering information for someone else," Martinez told me. "The notes were pickup points. Someone else was collecting the information and using it for identity theft, burglary planning, or worse." The investigation expanded rapidly. Hayes eventually cooperated with police and revealed his partner, Kevin Morrison, a 28-year-old with a history of burglary and fraud. Morrison had been paying Hayes $200 per week to gather detailed information about potential victims. Morrison's plan was sophisticated. He would use the personal information to commit identity theft, plan burglaries when people were away, and in some cases, target elderly residents for financial fraud. The pool surveillance was just one part of a larger criminal operation. 7 people from the pool community had already been victimized without realizing the connection. Break-ins, credit card fraud, and identity theft all traced back to the information Hayes had been collecting and storing in the pool. Both men were arrested and charged with multiple felonies including stalking, identity theft, conspiracy, and burglary. Hayes received 4 years in prison. Morrison got 7 years. The Westfield Community Pool installed a comprehensive new security system with motion sensors, improved lighting, and cameras that upload directly to cloud storage. They also implemented a buddy system for maintenance staff. No one works alone anymore. What haunts me is how methodical it was. These weren't random crimes of opportunity. Someone had turned a community pool into a surveillance operation, using the facility's trust and openness against the people it was meant to serve. The case also revealed how vulnerable we all are in our daily routines. People assume they're safe in their neighborhoods, that community facilities are secure spaces. But predators look for exactly those assumptions to exploit. I've started paying more attention to unusual items in pools during maintenance. Pool equipment, debris, even lost items can be hiding spots for things that shouldn't be there. It's changed how I approach every facility I service. Have you ever found something suspicious in a pool or community facility? Did you report it? Sometimes the smallest details can be part of much larger criminal operations targeting entire neighborhoods. What I didn't know was that Hayes and Morrison were part of an even bigger network. 3 days after their arrest, I received a call about another pool in the next county. I'm Detective Lisa Patterson with the Brookside Police Department, and what I pulled from the bottom of Hillcrest's municipal pool on September 12, 2022, exposed the conspiracy that had been festering in our town for over a decade. The pool had been drained for annual maintenance when our dive team was called to retrieve what appeared to be a waterlogged book caught in the main drain. The facility manager, Tony Ricci, thought it was just debris, but protocol required us to examine any foreign objects. What we found was a leather-bound diary wrapped in multiple layers of plastic, weighted down with fishing sinkers. Inside were 180 pages of meticulous handwriting documenting surveillance on 43 Brookside residents. But this wasn't random stalking, this was organized intelligence gathering. The entries were dated over 18 months, written by someone calling themselves the Watcher. Each resident had a detailed profile, work schedules, family relationships, financial troubles, marital problems, and most disturbing, their secrets. Helen Barnes, 67, Willow Drive, husband doesn't know about gambling debts, $43,000 stolen from church fund. Pastor James Crawford meets secretary every Wednesday 2 p.m. Motel 6, wife thinks he's visiting sick parishioners. Mayor Robert Steinman takes monthly payments from Clearwater construction approval paperwork, always rubber-stamped. Page after page revealed corruption, affairs, financial fraud, and criminal activity involving prominent citizens. But the final section contained something that made my blood run cold, a detailed plan for systematic blackmail. The Watcher had been building leverage against city officials, business leaders, and influential residents. The diary contained specific amounts each person would pay monthly to keep their secrets hidden. It was a comprehensive extortion scheme targeting the town's power structure. The most chilling entry was dated just 3 days before we found the diary. Ready to implement. Steinman first, he'll cave immediately. Then Crawford, then Barnes. Once they pay, others will follow. I immediately called Chief Morrison and District Attorney Sandra Wells. This wasn't just stalking, it was evidence of ongoing criminal conspiracy with multiple victims. The investigation revealed that several diary subjects had indeed been receiving anonymous threatening letters. Mayor Steinman had reported vague threats to his office but hadn't provided details. Pastor Crawford's wife had called about suspicious phone calls, but hadn't filed a formal complaint. The breakthrough came when we analyzed the diary's paper and ink. The journal was purchased from Bradley's Stationery on Main Street, and the ink matched a specific brand of pens sold at only 3 local stores. Security footage from these locations helped us identify our suspect. Dr. Margaret Foster, 52, had been Brookside's town librarian for 15 years. She had access to public records, knew everyone's routines, and had been systematically gathering information during her daily walks through town neighborhoods. Her position gave her perfect cover for surveillance. When we arrested Foster, we found her apartment filled with files, photographs, and recording equipment. She had been documenting the town's secrets for years, waiting for the right moment to monetize her intelligence. Foster confessed to everything. She revealed that the corruption in Brookside was far worse than even she had documented. Mayor Steinman had been taking bribes for 8 years, Pastor Crawford was embezzling church funds, and several business owners were involved in tax evasion schemes. The diary was thrown into the pool when Foster realized we were closing in. She had seen our surveillance team and panicked, trying to destroy the evidence. But the weighted, waterproof diary had been her backup plan all along. She intended to retrieve it later and restart her operation. Foster received 12 years for extortion, stalking, and conspiracy. But her revelations led to 14 additional arrests, including the mayor, 3 city councilmen, and 2 police officers. The Brookside scandal made national news. The FBI took over the investigation, and the entire city government was restructured. Foster's diary exposed systematic corruption that had been operating for over a decade. What disturbs me most is how one person's obsession with other people's secrets nearly destroyed an entire community. Foster had weaponized privacy, turning normal human flaws into tools for control and manipulation. The pool has since reopened with new security measures, but the trust in our community may never fully recover. Foster's diary proved that sometimes the most dangerous predators are the ones who seem most helpful and trustworthy. Have you ever suspected corruption in your local government? What would you do if you discovered your neighbor's darkest secrets? Sometimes the biggest threats to our communities come from within. What I didn't realize was that Foster had been corresponding with someone else, someone who had been teaching her surveillance techniques and helping plan the blackmail operation. The real mastermind was still out there. I'm Captain Frank Morrison, Brookside Police Department, and on October 15, 2022, we discovered that the corruption in our town ran deeper than anyone imagined, literally underground. Following up on Margaret Foster's arrest, we obtained a warrant to search Cedar Valley Athletic Club, a private facility that had appeared multiple times in her surveillance notes. The club's owner, Vincent Carbone, had been mentioned as a key ally in Foster's diary, though we initially thought it referred to information sharing. The search team included myself, Detective Patterson, and 2 federal agents. We expected to find files or communication equipment. Instead, we found something that redefined everything we thought we knew about the conspiracy. The pool area seemed normal regulation-sized swimming pool, standard equipment room, typical locker facilities. But Agent Williams noticed something odd about the dimensions. The equipment room was too small for the space it occupied on the building's exterior. "There's about 12 feet of space unaccounted for behind this wall," Williams said, measuring the distance with a laser tool. We brought in ground-penetrating radar and confirmed a hidden room behind the pool equipment area. The entrance was concealed behind a false panel that looked like electrical equipment housing. Inside, we found a sophisticated surveillance center that had been operating for years. The room contained 12 monitors displaying live feeds from cameras throughout Brookside traffic intersections, public buildings, private residences, and businesses. Recording equipment filled industrial shelving units, with thousands of hours of footage cataloged by date and location. The most disturbing discovery was a wall-mounted map of Brookside with colored pins marking surveillance targets. Red pins indicated active blackmail subjects, blue pins showed potential targets, and green pins marked assets, people who were either cooperating or being used unknowingly. Carbone had been the surveillance mastermind. Foster was just his field operative, gathering information to supplement his camera network. The athletic club provided perfect cover: wealthy clientele, private meetings, and legitimate reasons for security cameras. Financial records showed that Carbone had been collecting over $40,000 monthly from 17 different victims. The operation had generated nearly $2 million over 5 years, funding expansion of the surveillance network and bribing additional city officials. The hidden room revealed the full scope of the conspiracy. Carbone had compromised the police department's communication system, intercepted private phone calls, and even planted surveillance devices in City Hall during routine maintenance visits by his security company. Agent Williams called it one of the most sophisticated local surveillance operations the FBI had encountered. "This wasn't just blackmail," she explained. "This was systematic intelligence gathering designed to control an entire municipality." Carbone was arrested on federal charges including racketeering, extortion, and violation of wiretapping laws. His cooperation led to 23 additional arrests, including the police chief, 2 judges, and multiple business owners. The Cedar Valley Athletic Club was permanently closed, and the building was demolished 6 months later. The hidden surveillance room contained evidence that led to overturning dozens of court cases and municipal decisions dating back 7 years. The FBI's investigation revealed that Carbone had been planning to expand his operation to neighboring towns. He had already established preliminary surveillance in 3 other communities, using the same model of legitimate business fronts to hide illegal intelligence gathering. What horrified us most was learning that Carbone had been selling information to criminal organizations. Drug dealers, identity thieves, and burglary crews had been purchasing intelligence about law enforcement activities, wealthy residents, and security vulnerabilities. The Brookside surveillance conspiracy resulted in the largest municipal corruption case in our state's history. Carbone received 25 years in federal prison, Foster got an additional 8 years as a cooperating witness, and the entire town government was placed under federal oversight. The pool that had seemed like just another amenity had been the entrance to a criminal enterprise that violated hundreds of citizens' privacy and civil rights. It took 2 years to identify and notify all the surveillance victims. Have you ever wondered if your local businesses or community facilities might be hiding something? The most innocent-looking places can sometimes conceal the most dangerous operations. The investigation finally closed in 2024, but the scars on our community remain. Sometimes the people we trust most with our safety are the ones exploiting our vulnerability. Thanks so much for watching. I can't express enough how much your support means. The likes, the comments, it all really helps the channel grow. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to hit that like button and share your thoughts in the comments below. I always take the time to read them. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss out on any new videos. See you next time.